Uh, Hello, Glen.
Hey, how's it going? Good to see
Yeah,
you.
good to see you too. Yeah, apologies for the delays. Every day we're having some delays on schedule. People are asking questions, and we are doing
Because
our
it's
best.
such a great conference, so don't apologize.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us.
It's an
So,
honor to be with you.
yeah, so a little introduction. Eric Granvale is a founder and research lead of Microsoft Research Special Projects of Plural Technology Collaboratory, which is a founder of Radical Exchange Foundation and the leading think tank in the Web3 space, and the founder and chair of Plurality Institute, which coordinates an academic research network developing technology for cooperation and across different industries. He also is a senior advisor to Getting Plurality Research Network and at Harvard University. And he previously led Web3 technical strategy at Microsoft Office and chief technology of the chief technology officer, and was a co-chair of technical lead at Harvard Ehrman Sarfa Center at Ethics Rapid Response Task Force on COVID-19. Uh, Glenn, you have such a long list of such an amazing experiences you had over your life. Please correct me if I presented something wrong. Otherwise, I will leave the stage to you for you to start your presentation.
Thanks so much, Sergey. It's an honor to be here with all of you. Thanks for the kind introduction. I, unfortunately, given the timing, am going to have to leave in about 20 minutes. I'm going to get in the presentation I gave. We're still waiting on our friend Valeria to come in, who will do hopefully the second half. So, and I'll try to fill in a little bit if that doesn't work out, and maybe get you back on schedule in the worst case. So what I want to tell you about is a project that, oh gosh, these slides got kind of compressed. I'm sorry about that. The title's covered up by some of the faces, but this is about the plural management protocol in Gov4Git, and as well as the plurality book, which is what Valeria is going to talk about. A bunch of people are involved at this at Microsoft, Protocol Labs, GitHub, and other institutions. I can't show all of them, but a few of them are myself, Petar Maimunkov of Protocol Labs, now of the Gov4Git Foundation, Tobin South from MIT, and Kazia Sitskevitz from GitHub. And the basic motivation for this project is a wonderful book by Nadia Asparova, formerly Egbal, called Working in Public. This is where she points out that the open source software space is an incredibly vital and exciting space, but it has some kind of structural challenges. In particular, as open source projects scale, they run into the problem that sort of has two sides to it. On the one hand, this is supposed to be this open, participatory, democratic thing, and yet in practice, the maintainers of the project who make the final decisions end up being benevolent dictators for life. And that sounds like a great deal for them, like, oh my gosh, they're in charge, everybody else should be upset. But actually, it's just as much of a problem for them as it is for the rest of the community, because what they took on as free software in the sense of free speech becomes free as in a puppy. So you take the puppy for free, but you end up cleaning up its poop and feeding it for years. And that's what ends up happening to the maintainers of open source software projects. They have no way to financially sustain themselves, and they end up with all this responsibility to maintain the project. This also comes together with the problem that if a project is successful, many people contribute. Keeping track of who's contributing, what they're doing, what the benefit of that is very challenging. And this is in a space where there's a very strong dedication to the notion of not using traditional hierarchical management, not organizing things in like a closed corporate form. In fact, GitHub itself, which is like now a traditional corporation, was formed originally as what they called a holacracy, where there was kind of flat control, everyone was a teammate, no hierarchical management, etc. So there are these ideals of this sort of dispersed democratic control, but they run into the problem of there's not actually tooling that directly supports this. Now, of course, this has been a lot of the idea behind many Web3 structures. So the idea of a lot of Web3 was to solve these problems of distributed control, but by basically financializing everything, by tokenizing things, turning things into tradable assets, and using money-based corporate governance techniques to make decisions collectively, attributing money to input code from output code in hierarchies of open source projects, using protocols like SourceCred. And some of these things are great. There's been really cool things with GitHub sponsors, etc., that try to use money and payments as one way to address this problem. The difficulty, however, is that to a large extent, people got into open source in the first place because they didn't want to just have a simple financial structure. They believed in some more commons-based collective control. And open source, might not have delivered that fully for them, but it at least offered them a path to try to experiment with something different. And in fact, many of them were inspired by thinking by people like Elinor Ostrom, who won the Nobel Prize in Economics, for the notion that outside of the market, outside of centralized government control, there is a third path, a path of commons-based government, where there are formal rules, but they are not reducible to simple market control. And this has become the attempt to formalize this more, to build software around this, has become the basis of this movement that's sometimes called funding the commons, is what Protocol Labs calls it, radical exchange, many other things that attempt to build systems of formalized collective control that formally recognize contributions and allow collective determination, but without turning everything into a simple, financial market transaction. And there's a lot of ideas in that space. I can't go through all of them. One important one, however, is the notion of a community currency, where there's some kind of currency given out to the community, but it can't just be traded for other things. It can't be freely transferred. It's used in specified community ways to say make collective decisions, prioritize things, award credit to people for tasks, rather than to just trade and sell. And that this could be used to allocate tasks among people, to give credit, to manage the process, but not in a hierarchical way, in a way that uses mechanisms, but not just market mechanisms, richer, more sophisticated cooperative mechanisms. This is very related to the platform cooperativism movement. And the structure that we've been building around this, which is called Gov4Git, tries to build into a shared database in the spirit of a blockchain this general community commons-based approach rather than a fully financialized approach. And in particular, the way that it does that, and again, I can't go into the technical details here, but basically, in a standard blockchain, the incentive for mirroring the shared set of information is some financial reward. In Gov4Git, instead, the incentive for mirroring the database is the same incentive for mirroring an open source repository, which is your desire to participate in the project. And the thing that ensures that it can't be attacked, rather than access to financial resources, is some compliance protocol where there is a process that's socially determined for permissioning new members, and then for those new members have some kind of social capital, kind of like proof of stake, but with these more sophisticated governance mechanisms that allows them to approve changes to the database. Okay, so on top of this underlying database, how are we going to manage an open source project? Well, there's this thing called the Plural Management Protocol, which is sort of a full lifetime circular pathway for these internal tokens that represents basically a non-hierarchical, or you could call it decentralized if you want, way of managing a team, but that has a lot of features of normal management practices. So like the two most fundamental operations in an open source project are issues and their prioritization, and then pull requests where people make contributions and the decision of whether to approve them. And what we use is a bunch of different mechanisms that have come out of this literature, this radical exchange and plurality literature, to do that management. So we prioritize issues using something called quadratic funding, which allows people to sort of say that they think an issue is important, contribute their resources towards it, and then there's some matching funds that take into account the breadth of support and not just how much support it got. And then the priority that gets put on issues is the bounty.
Marketing officer of Dakoko.
Hello? Hello? Okay, I'm back.
Apologies for technical difficulties.
No worries. So, and that priority that's put on the issue basically becomes a bounty for someone who resolves it. And those bounties will typically rise over time if the issue doesn't get resolved. So it kind of has a bit of a Dutch auction structure. Someone can then submit something that addresses that issue. That thing that addresses the issue needs to be approved. And for its approval, we have a mechanism that combines quadratic voting, which is another voting mechanism that's come out of this world, with prediction markets, so that people who are new to the community, who are just learning, can gain credits by correctly predicting what decision is going to be made, and therefore making it easier for the maintainers, so they don't need to look in as much detail. And then other people who have a lot of credits already, who are already big contributors to the community, can effectively vote and choose the direction that the community goes. So this gives sort of a full life cycle for management, where authority gradually flows from those who currently hold that authority to the people who are younger, who are contributing, or younger to the project, who are contributing and who are building up within the project. So our plan is to deploy Gov4Gid and the Plural Management Protocol on this book called the Plurality Book, which is being built as an open source collaboration. We actually just went to private preview yesterday. It will be a public preview December 1st. The substance of this book, which is what Ria was going to cover, if she's here, I don't know if she is. I'll let her talk about that unless I get an indication that here she is. Wonderful. Perfect timing. She will talk about the book, but if you're interested in being involved in the book is a collaboration with Audrey Tong, the digital minister of Taiwan, as well as dozens of people, including Ria, in the plurality community. You can find us on Twitter at Plurality Book. You can email me at glen@plurality.net. You can read the contents of the book at plurality.net. You can look up the repo, Plurality Book, etc. I hope many of you will be inspired to participate by the wonderful presentation that Ria is going to give in a second. And thank you so much for your time. I won't be around to take questions, but please feel free to email me with questions. Delighted to engage with you all. And Slava Ukraina.
Glen, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for everything you are doing for Ukraine and for the global good of the society. We really appreciate you joining us today, and thanks for finding the time.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah. From here, Valeria Panina, whom you already have seen presenting yesterday. Just a reminder that Valeria is a blockchain education manager at the Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine and a fellow researcher at Ethereum Foundation Next Billion Fellowship Project. Yeah, Valeria, the stage is yours.
Yes. Hi, Glen. Hi, all. Yes, let me share my presentation.
My most sincere apologies. We actually have one question from the community, and while Glen is still here, and I remember he has 4 more minutes, how trusted validators perform in this protocol? That's a question.
So the concept of a validator is a little bit different in this world. A validator is not somebody who gets paid to maintain the database. It's someone who's a volunteer to the project, like any volunteer to a open source project who volunteers to maintain the database. And the way that you enter into that role initially is basically that you get nominated by existing members of the community in a collective web of trust type framework to become part of the community, or you make a contribution to the code that gets accepted that earns you the credits, which gives you effectively the stake to begin participating in the community.
Thank you so much for the response. I hope it addresses. If there will be follow-up questions, we still have 3 minutes of Glen's time. Now, Valeria can start uploading her presentation, and yeah, we will start very soon with her part. Yeah, no more question, and yeah, thank you for addressing this one.
Okay, it won't give me.
Yeah, you click present button and then you go.
Yeah, and I can see it when I connect my Google Drive.
Still 2 minutes of Glen's time. So what are the results?
What are the results of what?
Well, this is the question from the chat. What are the results? Yeah, please provide more details. What results are you asking about? Applying the protocol to the project.
Well, it's launching on December 1st. So as public preview, it's private preview right now. There's a lot of elements that have gone into it that have been tested elsewhere, but the overall protocol, we're going to see. It's going to be a really fun experiment over the next month. So, and Ria and among others will be participating. So.
Well, can you maybe drop the links to the relevant information so I can post them in the comments so people can join and participate?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this. Okay, Valeria, you are ready, and thank you so much again. Thanks for the great presentation and for being with us. Valeria, over to you. Thank you.
That's great. Yes, you can see my screen. Everything is successful. Yes. Hey, my name is Valeria. I manage blockchain education at the Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine, and also I'm a fellow researcher within Ethereum Foundation's Next Billion initiative. Together with my colleague Yulia Sukhaya, we have been working on the Ukrainian translation of the Plurality project, and I'm excited to talk about it today. While Glen's presentation was primarily of technical and academic nature, mine will take on a more popular and humanitarian perspective. It will revolve around the essential content of the book, its concept and values, and in part the relevance to those of a Ukrainian spirit, challenges posed by the work being translated, and by the work being translated specifically into Ukrainian, and an open call for future collaborators. The name of the presentation, Manifesting Plurality Ukrainian, reflects these statements, and let's delve deeper into them. Plurality is an open, Git-based collaborative book project that aims to offer a vision for the future of technology focused around empowering and bridging social difference. The vision is to populate the book's content around the world. And on a higher note, the book normalizes the plurality of opinions and approaches, questions the usual instances of technologies, and puts nuance on the agenda. And it is important to highlight that the semantics of the notions plural, pluralism, and plurality operated in this project has shifted from the common philosophical understanding of the namesake concepts. That's why the term plurality should be treated rather as a homonym to them. Here, plurality represents a comprehensive approach to digital technology going beyond merely just a political or social philosophy, and hence I will be referring to such a notion. To find common grounds, it's necessary to get familiar with the overall outline of the book, since I will build my further statements in part about the Ukrainian translation of it on such premises. So the book explores the concept of plurality and its implication in our technological future. It uncovers the conflict between democratic concepts and how technology is being unfolded, highlights the anti-democratic ideologies within certain instances of current traditions. Plurality is examined, emphasizing its role in promoting diversity and cooperation. Digital human rights, decentralized identity, and the potential of certain digital currencies and open data standards come into focus here too. The book underlines the need for universal access and digital competence to the space. It further discusses the application of democracy in a very digital context, focusing on deliberation, compromise, consensus, and pluralism essentially, and explores the transformative potential of democratic institutions in public and private sectors. And it also goes includes real-world successes in countries as Taiwan and Estonia. In the first chapters, the book calls for comprehensive investment of our resources and international cooperation to realize the vision of the plurality, and emphasizes that every citizen can contribute to this movement, aligning technologies with human values. The book is being created and distributed in a manner embodying the ideas of it. The work is licensed under the most permissive category of Creative Commons license, Creative Commons Zero, that is public domain, meaning that all the materials will be a free cultural work open to any kind of free distribution and modification. It's being written now in here, with everyone being a potential co-author in a Git environment with a Discord channel for communication, all that implying open collaboration and transparency, and has the intention to eventually transform into a decentralized autonomous organization and to use a variety of Web3 technologies to facilitate cooperation, such as moving to decentralized storage system, using NFTs, and to document and realize contribution in a transparent manner, and to use the plural quadratic funding. All these and much more surrounding the Plurality project is aimed to co-invent a new publishing model for the Web3 era. Technology is beautiful. Progress is inevitable. All that dangerous if let be running wild. One of the central statements is that technology in its current way of unfolding and democracy are in conflict. Even though plurality as a wider concept claims to be inherent to the digital space, in order to implement its values in full realization, proactive contribution, and smart shaping direction of how modern technologies are unfolding and developing is necessary. Otherwise, we are doomed to keep diverging from realization in keeping democratic values in this space. Some of emerging innovations like speculative cryptocurrencies lacking intrinsic value, social media with addictive algorithms, immersive metaverses risk undermining democracy, deepening divides, and excluding participants. Addressing these challenges demands a focus on digital accessibility and people's user empowerment. They must control their identities and be able to protect their rights and privacy. This involves decentralized identity system and open data sharing standards, for example, to come into full force. Balanced digital currencies also are essential here. And an education plays a huge role in spreading awareness and engaging collaborators for a harmonious future of technology and democracy. Speaking about the relevance for Ukrainians, actually the fact that I specifically highlight the relevance to Ukraine or basically any space might at first glance seem controversial and counterintuitive because global perspective is one of the values of the project, as you saw on the previous slides. Though, in order to allow seamless realization of the project values everywhere, we shall allow for contextual differences of different spaces and locations where we unfold the plurality to create premises for further decisions. In the following minutes, I'd like to highlight some parallels of the concepts presented in the book to those of Ukrainian spirit. As you remember from the contents, and there are next chapters, democracy, freedom, and impact, and also there is an underlying inevitable digitalization notion here. So democracy is in Ukraine's DNA. Ukraine's deep-rooted democratic history traces back to Kazakh Republic and Hetman Philip Orlik revolutionary constitution, representing the early stage of Ukrainian constitutionalism back in 1710. The Orange Revolution in 2004, marked by over 100,000 protesters that sparked a wave of alike revolutions in the world after, brought significant political changes, basically transforming Ukraine to a parliamentary presidential republic. 10 years after, in 2014, Ukraine underwent another transformative event, the Revolution of Dignity, which began as a mass protest against a lack of governmental transparency, led the removal of then president, and marked a significant shift towards towards more Western course of development and democratic reforms in the country. During the Revolution of Dignity and its aftermath, the Ukrainian volunteering movement emerged as a powerful force. This movement showcased a profound ability of our people to self-coordinate, fostered by shared commitment to social and political change. As of this year, 61% of Ukrainian volunteers, there are 61% of Ukrainians are engaged in some sort of volunteering for the defense forces or fellow citizens. And that's a real phenomenon, how we do that. Also, Ukrainians consistently impact the nation through civil society tools like electronic petition or mere social media publicity, which leads to substantial changes in social organization, from cultural life to political life, from preventing public figures with undesirable image to represent Ukraine in international song contests, to causing cancellation or amendments to legislation, as with recent dubbing law, to name just a few instances. Ukraine's rapid digitalization has a remarkable pace. Ukraine has a vision of a state in the smartphone. With the substantial internet penetration, it has leveraged its digital capabilities through innovations like de-applications, with 19 million users as of this summer. The application basically is a platform that opens a variety of digital state services and documents that are identical to the hard copies. We have our national, international passports, their COVID certificates. You can pay taxes literally in one click using Apple or Google Pay, and many different other examples of basically manifestation the state in smartphone resolution. And at large, and also, of course, it proved to be enormously efficient in wartime when physical copies or some people were just essentially destroyed of their documents. And at large, the digital economy stands as Ukraine's top priority, especially considering the consequences of the full-scale invasion, which has significantly disrupted other industries. In Ukraine, like elsewhere else, technology is an unstoppable force with great, beautiful potential. But we also recognize the risks, especially in our situation. That's why it's crucial to use technology in a way that aligns with our values, with our democratic values, and ensures a safe and promising future for our country. And that's why it's great to learn such examples and find practical application for them. Speaking about the challenges of the further challenges of the project, about accessibility. So the varying frequency of terms in English compared to their counterpart, compared to their Ukrainian counterparts, especially if a term entered the space through the English language, posing a significant challenge. Let's look at an example. So one of the concepts presented in the book that we've discussed just now is quadratic or plural phoneme. When being searched in English, we have 96 results on the primary Google index, and we have dedicated web pages for explaining that notion. However, its Ukrainian equivalent, квадратичне фінансування, has only 15 results, плюральне фінансування even less, and you won't find more than one passage of information in Ukrainian. This discrepancy highlights the need to ensure that Ukrainian readers have access to the same wealth of information and ideas as their English-speaking counterparts to live up to the accessibility resolution, and not to be focused on, quote, Web3 natives or tech bubble. The statistics further emphasize this challenge. Only 7.5% of Ukrainians are fluent English speakers, which poses a significant language barrier for accessing content originally written in English and limits the project's ability to reach a wider audience. Actually, not staying limited to Web3 natives or tech workers that generally have a higher level of English mastery. And our goal is to ensure that the values and knowledge within plurality are accessible to everyone who seeks them, regardless of their linguistic or technical background. So probably the work on the Ukrainian version would go beyond mere translation and publication of the text and might require creating and distribution of additional materials in the internet at large. A decision to be made by the contributors of the project. Also, another one challenge is about semantics. When translated work enters in your discourse, it inevitably interacts with the pre-existing concepts and notions within that discourse. Sometimes these pre-existing concepts align with the translated work, sharing a similar semantic field and don't impact that much it, or even enrich the original concept in a positive way. However, it can also lead to unintended contextual implications. For example, when we use the term plurality in countries over which, quote, Soviet Union exercised colonial control, end of quote, it often conjures associations with pluralism мнений, a concept central to the era of perestroika, when it opposed corporativism, and thus naturally triggers associations with a central semantic field, even though it was like an antonym to then existing and prevailing ideology. In the context of scientific works, basically on any works, it's equally vital to consider not only what a notion means, but also what it doesn't entail or what it is opposed to, because it's essentially comprised a semantic field of that notion. Therefore, even though we aim to avoid drawing connotations and associations beyond the scope of our concept of plurality, it remains important to recognize the outer linguistic nuances and maybe make certain decisions how to approach it. Currently we propose transcribing the word plurality as plurality in Ukrainian to distance from potentially undesirable already existing meanings. However, from another perspective, transcribing or transliteration of foreign word forms has risks, since excessive use of such word forms instead of already present assimilated equivalents in the language or in the target language are essentially filling the language with barbarisms, harming its purity. All this poses a challenge of balancing the essence of the concept with its linguistic form and is open to debate. This example highlights one of the many challenges we face, and it's the reason we extend an open call for potential collaborators to join the project. About collaborators and community. As of today, we have a small team of enthusiasts working on the Ukrainian track of the project. The introduction is already published on the website. Important to note, it's like it's stated in the original introduction, is the first draft and should be viewed as the first iteration of the work and basis for further improvement. And we are looking for tech enthusiasts, translators, copy editors, philosophers, and other activists to continue manifesting plurality in a collaborative manner. Proposed next steps are to basically copy-edit the existing translation, to refine terminology, in part to make a final decision on the very central term used in the book, to translate new chapters, and to propose and implement further improvements to the project at large. On a broader scale, we invite you all to share the word, try to implement the proposed concepts in the book, and discuss their insights. On a separate note, I myself am already using tools and methods that I learned from V-Taiwan case in my research under the umbrella of Ethereum Foundation, about adoption of crypto and DLT technologies in Ukraine. I delivered the speech on it yesterday, and invite you to get familiar with it too, especially if you are an educator, a builder, or impact maker in the Web3 space. That said, we invite anyone interested to contact anyone from the team, and I will be happy to address some of your questions now or later through my social media. Just showing the list of sources, and I guess presentation will be available later. And that's it.
Valeria, thank you so much for another great presentation you made on this forum. Could you please maybe return to the previous slide with your contact?
Yeah, of course.
I wanted to ask how collaborators can be joining. Who should be those people, and what is the process for them? How what is the onboarding process? How it will look for them, so they know what to expect and.
Yeah, of course. So right now, as I said, we are mostly looking to refine the first draft of the Ukrainian translation and keep on working on it, because the next chapter are already published, and if I'm not mistaken, they are translated only like in the 2 languages as of today. And the process is very open. So basically, we'll be happy to connect on the social media. And generally, after people got into Discord, and yes, there are like guides. Actually, we refined the guides, how to start working on the Discord, how to start working, for example, if it's like Ukrainian translation, and we can totally, with my colleague who is not working with more like tech environment, like we've been translating using just general collaborative docs. So if the person is a copy editor, it doesn't mean that we require other skills. I mean, using GitHub and stuff. So we'll be happy to collaborate in a way that is good for both parties. But everything starts with communication.
Understood. Thank you so much. There is a question from the audience. Could you please summarize what were the 3 top particular goals of the book?
Mm-hmm. Oh, actually, why? So the let's summarize it to one goal. The main goal is that so the premises is that technological advancement is inevitable. It's disruptive. I mean, it has already transformed the way we live and the space at large. But it's important to shape and take proactive action and impact on how the technological progress unfolds, because otherwise there are risks that basic human values like democracy, democratic values, those that we discussed when we were looking at the contents and values of the book, might be undermined, and we need to be in charge here and proactively contribute to them unfolding in order to have the space beautiful, accessible, inclusive, and conducive, I would say.
Understood. Dear audience, does it answer your question, or there would be some other follow-up questions? Also, Glen just wrote to describe the vision underlying Taiwan's best in the world performance of a digital democracy. Can you please repeat what does plurality mean here? That's a question.
Let's even go to the definition. So basically, pluralism is a social philosophy outlook that recognizes and fosters the flourishing of and cooperation between diversity of socio-cultural group systems, basically an inclusive space where every participant can conducively realize themselves. And plurality is a movement with the core principle of such cooperation between diverse groups that harmoniously coexist and co-create in the space.
Understood. Please, does anyone have any other questions? Okay, so if there are no other questions, basically I will invite the following speaker, Valeria. Thank you so much for joining us for the second day. It is always great to have you on our virtual stage, and yeah, two great presentations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Yeah, have a good one. Have a good day. Thank you.
A good one.